but thank y'all for coming to the Hays County Tejano Democrats School Board Candidate Forum. We are the Hays County Tejano Democrats, and we are one of the local Democratic clubs in Hays County. And you can learn more about us at haystajaноdems.org. School board races, as you know, are nonpartisan. However, we're a Democratic club. So we invited any candidate with a Democratic primary history or history of voting, no history of voting in the primary. So of all the people running for Hays CISD school board, there were three people with Democratic voting history, and two of them or three are here. One turned us down. So for at large, the only person with Democratic voting history was Katy Armstrong. In the District 3 race, both candidates have Democratic voting histories. Ray Chavez, who's on here to call tonight, he has all solid Democratic voting history. We also invited the other person, the incumbent, other person who did have the Democratic voting history who was not able to come is Courtney Runkle, and she's the current incumbent. So she had a history of voting 50% Republican, 50% Democrat in the last four elections. So the first person we're going to ask a question to is Katy Armstrong. And the first question is, in your opinion, what are the most pressing challenges facing our district, and how do you propose to address them?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Like you mentioned, I am Katy Armstrong, running for the at-large position. And I think we're facing several issues. One of the biggest ones is just growth. Hays County is growing exponentially faster than we can keep up with, and that also includes schooling. So I know Johnson High School, all the schools have what's called a functional capacity and maximum capacity of students. And Johnson High School that just opened is already at the functional capacity, which means they can function, but it's pretty snug. At maximum capacity, it means that classrooms are basically full. So I think facing the growth of our district in all areas is one of the biggest issues that we're really facing. And I know in the next few years, there will be bonds that we're hoping to get through to create more schools so our students can continue to excel and we can continue to be a great district. And that's looking at all areas of our district. So we're equitable, not just where the money might be. So thank you.
Thank you, Katy. In your opinion, what are the most pressing challenges facing the district, and how do you propose to address them?
Thank you, Willie, and thanks everyone for listening in. I agree with Katy that the number one priority is student population growth. It's, there's tremendous growth in this area, as you are all aware of, even if you weren't involved in the schools. You've seen a lot of influx of new residents, many of them coming in from Austin because of the more affordability here for housing. But with that growth comes the growth in our schools, in student population. So that student population growth, I think, is number one. It's going to be causing all kinds of problems in the future. We don't plan well ahead and build the facilities that we're going to need, and to have the teachers and the staff. So that goes back to one basic issue, and that's public school financing. The legislature has not been kind to public schools, and we're going to have to continue that fight. We just got over the fights over school vouchers. That fight is going to continue on a different plane. Governor Abbott has been very creative in attacking those of us who support adequate funding for public schools and have fought against school vouchers for private schools. Different district infrastructure and school construction goes along with that growth. Neighborhood school traffic. I have personally spoken to a number of parents who have been lined up at their schools trying to pick up their kids, and the lines are long. The traffic congestion is increasing. Another issue is school safety, and that involves a number of issues, not just school safety for purposes of deterring any attacks, any gun violence, but also deterring things like bullying. That's become a big issue, and there have been a number of fights taking place at our local schools. So school safety is a pretty broad umbrella. And finally, the problem with drugs. People like to label it as the fentanyl crisis. I like to use a broader approach and say that we still have a drug problem at our schools, mostly because students are self-medicating. They are getting bad information from the internet, from their peers, on social media about drugs. And some of them have taken drugs that were laced with fentanyl, has led to some deaths. The district has done a good job in trying to address those issues, but I think we need to be ever vigilant in addressing the fentanyl crisis and expanding that to address the overall drug problem. So that's a summary of some of the issues that I'm concerned about.
Great, thank you. You hit it like right at 3 minutes on the dot.
Oh.
Sure. How do you plan to ensure equity and inclusivity within our school district, particularly concerning marginalized students and communities?
Well, I think you have to give voice to the diverse communities. You have to create an environment that welcomes those people, those opinions in a broader way. I plan to reach out to those communities to create that welcoming environment. I've had extensive experience in working with diverse communities. For example, I was a development director of Denver's Five Points Media Center, which was based in an economically depressed Black neighborhood of Denver. I also ran the Oklahoma Institute for Diversity in Journalism, working with the poorest of the poor, and I'm referring to American Indian students and their families on some of the poorest reservations in the country. I've served as a grant writer and coach for Run Free Texas. That was my first initial effort here in the Austin metro area. Run Free Texas was a nonprofit organization that worked with at-risk youth in Travis and Williamson counties, and we had begun to begin this same program in Hays County when the pandemic hit. My diversity programs are all inclusive, included participants across economic, gender, ethnic, racial, and religious lines. I want to be an engaged advocate for a more equitable distribution of services to low-income residents of our school district by being a liaison to convey their concerns to the district administrators and to the Board of Trustees. That means I'm going to reach out to the resident participation in the district beyond what's being done right now. Basically, I will go where they live and I speak their language, both literally and culturally, in order to increase their representation in the district and in matters that affect their children. So I'm going to use my professional communication skills. I have a master's in communication from the University of Washington, and I want to use those skills to open up convenient means for participatory governance over their schools. And I'll connect those area residents with the help of civic organizations, some of our non-school organizations that are eager to provide aid to our lower income neighbors and our friends.
Next, we'll go to Katy Armstrong, and I'll repeat the question there. How do you plan to ensure equity and inclusivity within our school district, particularly concerning marginalized students and communities?
All right. Well, I think that there are two areas to look at this. Economically disadvantaged and minority students. In particular, I think it's important that we distribute school funds equitably across the district. For schools with a higher concentration of economically disadvantaged students, more funds will be required to address their basic needs first, and then their academic ones. Students can't learn if they're hungry. They don't come to school if they don't have clean clothes. So just making sure that funds are distributed to address those needs is something that speaks to me. I'm actually looking at volunteering with the Hays coat closet, so I can see that more firsthand and see what ways we can support students moving forward. And as the district grows, we will need to add more schools. So it's important that we pay attention to where the growth is actually happening, while also maintaining the schools that already exist. As far as a more broad, marginalized and yeah, more of a marginalized student body. I am a strong ally. I have lived in 4 other countries and traveled to 21 others. So diversity is something that I really embrace. I want to lift up marginalized voices whenever possible. I recognize that I am privileged by my race, and it's not my place to speak for those that should be speaking. So supporting those voices through school and district events by encouraging active participation in the district. I'm getting involved with my own school's PTA, but I think looking for parents that can also join their PTAs gives them a way to be valued in the community. And that is regardless of socioeconomic status, of gender, of identity, of cultural background. I think it's important that we value every member and what they bring to the table.
So the next question, we'll go to Katy first. How do you plan to collaborate with other board members, district leadership, and community stakeholders to foster a positive and productive working relationship for the betterment of our schools? I will also post that in the chat, and I can repeat that if you need me to.
Sorry, I'll take a quick read through it one more time. I am walking into this this run against someone who a lot of the board members are more excited about. They're not as excited that I am running, and I'm not exactly sure why that is, but I have still made it a priority to communicate and talk with the current school board members. I have been volunteering throughout the district, trying to reach out to members at all the different schools. I also have a couple of people that I've helped support to get onto the City of Kyle, the city board, sorry. So I feel like I have a broad range of relationships across the district, which in turn will help me to create a more positive, productive working relationship. There is a social contract that every member is required to sign once they become a trustee. And the basic idea is that we will support each other in public. We can have our feelings outside of it, but in public we'll support them. And I feel like I do a good job of that already, but I am prepared to support them publicly, regardless of how they may be feeling about me or how I may be feeling about them. And to ask questions. I mean, I'm coming into it as a brand new trustee, hopefully. And I really value the experience that they already have and hope that they can provide me with their knowledge and make me a better trustee as well. So thank you.
Repeat the question. How do you plan to collaborate with other board members, district leadership, and community stakeholders to foster a positive and productive working relationship for the betterment of our schools?
I think everyone who's involved in public education has a passion for providing educational opportunities for students in our area and beyond. So the underlying theme there is what unites us. I have adhered to the ethical guidelines that were provided for candidates in not attacking my opponent. I've adhered to that very closely. I've not said anything negative about my opponent. And I have not said anything negative about other members of the trustees. I attend school board meetings regularly. I have commented during the community portion of the school board meetings. And in none of those presentations, I've expressed my opinion. I may have had different aspects, different perspectives on some of the issues at hand, but they have not involved any personal attacks. I have a good working relationship with the superintendent, Dr. Wright, who I think is an excellent superintendent. I'm also a member of the district leadership team. The district leadership team is an advisory group to the superintendent, and I work with other teachers and community members to provide advice and share our opinions with the district administration on what we think needs to be done and what issues need to be addressed. So I've always been a person that has worked cooperatively and collaboratively with individuals, even those who I disagree with, because I think we all have the same thing in mind, and that is to, achieve goals. I don't have any problem with any of the current school board members, and I think, I can continue to work with them. Same thing goes for the administration. And in addition, I come from a family of teachers, so I have the utmost respect for teachers within the district, and would continue to stay in touch with them, get their opinions, get their comments, get their concerns before the powers that be, in order to bring about, a successful approach to bettering education in Hayes CISD.
Great, thank you.